Hello everybody, welcome to the vlog. My name is Elena. I'm a K-5 behavior special education teacher and also a brand new mom, and this is going to be my birth story vlog. If you are new to the vlog or if you're a returning viewer, I'm just so glad that you're here and you found my channel, no matter what way you found it. If you are here for strictly teaching content, I promise that is going to return, but for now I'm at home on maternity leave and I'm going to be filming videos that have to do with motherhood content because, well, I'm out of the classroom right now and that's what my life is motherhood. So I've got our little girl right here. Her full face will not be making an appearance on the camera. I've stated in previous vlogs that Chris and I have just, my husband and I have decided that the kids will not be on camera since this is a public platform, but I am baby wearing right now and I promise you she can breathe even though you can't see her face, but it's sideways on my chest right now and she can breathe, I promise you that. But yeah, this is little Maddox and she was born on September 2nd. The last video that I posted was my last week in the classroom. However, it was a chaotic week and it wasn't really a full week. So it was, but I was not in the classroom for all those days. I was there, it was a Monday through Friday. I was there Monday. I was there on the morning on Tuesday, and then Tuesday afternoon, I had an OB appointment. It was technically my 38-week appointment. And we were checking to see if baby was still breech. At 37 weeks, she had flipped breech. She was head down from 29 to 37 weeks, and then I was like 37 weeks and 5 days when we went and had that appointment, and all of a sudden she was breech. So that was a surprise. We were trying to deal with that, and I had a lot of emotions around like what it looks like to have a C-section and trying to accept that reality because I had this very clear birth plan in my mind about having a natural birth, having an unmedicated natural birth. I didn't want the Pitocin, I didn't want the epidural, I wanted little to no interventions. And then at 37 and a half weeks, all of a sudden we were in the high risk category because she was breech. So that was a lot mentally for me to wrap my mind around, but I'm here to tell you we survived it and we are healthy and thriving, and little miss is here and we're so thankful for that, and no one is ever going to be able to know by looking at her whether she was born naturally or via C-section. So we're happy and thankful for healthy mama and healthy baby at the end of the day. But as I backtrack, I was in the classroom Tuesday morning and I left Tuesday afternoon, first for an OB appointment, then for a chiropractor appointment. There are chiropractors that specialize in what's called the Webster method to help. They don't like flip the baby on their own, but they do practice like aligning your body so that the baby is, or your body's in the best position possible to be able to allow the baby to flip back, head down. So I had a chiro appointment, and then I had an appointment at the bank to sign some paperwork for some home improvement stuff that we're doing. And then I had to go and sign paperwork for a lease on my vehicle because we recently traded my vehicle in and I'm now leasing a new vehicle instead of the vehicle that I was in. Yeah, we had a lot going on that afternoon. So I was not in school Tuesday afternoon. Then Wednesday we got married and adopted our son from foster care. So he's no longer a foster child, he is our son. We're still waiting on the birth certificate to come in so I can go change his social security card as well. But Wednesday was a busy day and so I was gone, and then Thursday I was in the classroom, and that was the last day I was in the classroom because then Friday I had an ECV procedure, which is a virgin external cephalic version is what it stands for, and the doctors literally try to like flip the baby from the outside. It was so painful. I don't recommend and I wouldn't do it again, but like I said, I was so tied to this idea that we were going to have a natural delivery that I was willing to try anything to try to flip her, which is why I had multiple chiropractor appointments and why we tried the virgin, and it was unsuccessful. It was very painful. And yeah, I just now that that I know more about it and what it looked like, what it entailed. There was only a 50-50 shot of it working anyways, and the day that I had it, I was 38 weeks and 6 days, and by the time the doctor was done with it, he was like, if you were 1 day further along, I would have been at 39 weeks then. He said, I could just do your C-section today then. But it is what it is. It didn't work and sent me home. And then Saturday we had over 100 people at our house throughout the day to, one, watch college football, but more importantly, celebrate our wedding and adoption, and we called it like our diaper keg too, so like as many life events as you can throw into 1 week, we did. And that happened on Saturday. So that was like my week leading up to the birth of our daughter, our perfect, beautiful daughter. I just could not be more in love with her, and so thankful that she's here. But yeah, that was all in the last vlog that I posted. So since then, what has happened, on Sunday, September 1st, my parents stayed, and so did my sister and my aunt. And so we were, we went to church Sunday morning. I got my nails done with a friend and my sister, and we actually went and got pho after the nail appointment, so that felt really good because I had this cough from hell. I'm not kidding you. It was terrible and on the verge of making me wonder if I had bronchitis. I had gone to the doctor. That was another thing that I did on Monday, is I went to the urgent care and they swabbed me for strep and COVID and flu. Came back negative for all of that. They put me on a prescription anyways to try to get rid of it because they're like, well, if you're gonna have a C-section next week, and we don't want this complicating things. So tried to clear it out. It maybe made it better, I guess, a little bit more bearable, but it was terrible. And I was just constantly like, there was mucus and stuff all in my lungs, and I was constantly like coughing it up and spitting it out, and it was just so painful and it hurt so bad. I don't even know how I got on that topic, but anyways, oh well, the pho, because of the broth on it, it did actually make me feel better. And there's like ginger and I had the jalapenos actually as one of the things in there, and so that kind of like cleared things up for me a little bit and felt good. And then there's a new Indian restaurant in town that just opened, and we just really like ethnic food, so we ordered Indian food. Well, the old wives' tale about spicy food throwing you into labor maybe has some truth to it, because that's what we had for dinner. And then I started having contractions Sunday night, which I was not intentionally trying to throw myself into labor. If anything, I was trying to not, because knowing that baby was breech, I knew I could not deliver her that way, and knew that if I was going to go into labor, that it would turn into an emergency C-section situation. So I was not trying to put myself into labor. However, what ended up happening is around 8 o'clock, I started having pretty consistent contractions. They were lasting for like 7 to 8 minutes, and they were about 8 minutes apart. Now, normally they would not tell you to come into the hospital at that point. They need to be, if I'm not mistaken, under 5 minutes apart from each other. And so we were at like 7 to 8 minutes apart. However, I knew I could not let her like progress farther into the birth canal, because we needed to have the C-section because she was breech. So we went in. I'm gonna be honest, one of the triage nurses made me feel really dumb. She was like, how much water have you had today? I think you're just dehydrated. We're just gonna give you some fluids through the IV and see if we can get your contractions slowed down. And she checked me and told me that I wasn't dilated at all, but I was like, no, at 36 weeks, my actual OB checked me and I was a centimeter dilated and 50 to 60% effaced. So I don't think we went backwards there, but she tried to tell me that I wasn't dilated at all and that it was very thick. I was like, I'm gonna trust my OB over the triage nurse. But anyways, thankfully there were 2 triage nurses, and the other one was much kinder about things and listening to me about what was going on. And they were able to, as I was like in the triage down there in the maternity ward, they were able to slow my contractions down. They were still like 8 minutes apart, I guess, but they, like, my labor didn't progress any farther. Like, I wasn't progressing and being dilated any further. So labor wasn't progressing, so that was good. But as they had the heart rate monitor on baby, her heart rate would randomly really drop. There was actually one point where I was like pretty concerned because they had me like flip onto all fours and try to like move around to get her heart rate to come back up, and it did come back up, but the one nurse was really concerned and the other nurse was like, no, it's just a fluke. You know, looking back on things, I'm just glad that there was another nurse there, and then the midwife that they called in to come and check on things to advocate for me, because if it had been up to the one lady, she would have just sent me home, which would not have been good. So they just continued to keep me there for monitoring, and I stayed in the triage. We got there probably around 9:30, and I stayed in triage until 1:30 in the morning. And then they made the decision after monitoring me for that long and seeing it was not just a fluke. It wasn't just like a one-time thing that her heart rate dropped. Like it would go back up, but there were still multiple occurrences and instances of the heart rate dropping from like the 130s range down into like the 70s and 80s, which was concerning. But the fact that it would come back up made it like not an emergency situation, but it was still concerning. So they did decide to keep me and admit me to the hospital. So around 1:30, they brought me up from triage up to the 6th floor to the hospital to the maternity ward. And at that point, we were just waiting. They're like, whenever the doctor can get to you, she's like performing C-sections as we go. And whenever she gets to you. I don't, like, they didn't really have a time for me, but they're like, you will be having a C-section before you leave. Like, we're not sending you home. You'll have a C-section in the morning. It's just like, we don't have a time for you. It's whenever the doctor gets to you. Which I was glad it wasn't like an emergency, it needs to happen right now situation. But it was concerning enough where they were not sending me home. Like, they were like, as soon as they could get to me, we were gonna have this baby. So it's like 1:30 in the morning. Chris and I get up to my room, and it's really just a waiting game. They're like, try to sleep if you can. My nurse came in and checked on me, got everything ready for our, like, my meds and everything ready, is in my IVs hooked up and everything. And they said they'll come in for operating, like surgical prep for you, which just, like, I knew I was having a C-section, but, and I finally accepted it and like kind of grieved, and I guess if that's what you want to call it, but like let go of the idea of having a natural birth. But thinking about having a C-section and the fact that you were having a pretty major surgery was still like not something I had wrapped my mind around. And so the fact that they were like having to come in and do all this surgical prep for me was just, I don't know, I had a hard time wrapping my mind around it, and just things like kind of feel like a blur. Like they just came in, and then all of a sudden there's just people poking you and prodding you and giving you shots and medication, and it was all very surreal. But yeah, around 8 o'clock they came in and started doing surgery prep, and by 9 o'clock they came in and like the anesthesiologist talked to me and went through all of the like consent and risks and everything about, you know, having a C-section. But it's not like you're gonna say no to that. Like, I wasn't gonna have that surgery without the anesthesia, without the any of those meds, you know. So the anesthesiologist comes in and does his whole like spiel with you, and you consent to everything. And then by 9:10, I think, is the timestamp Chris has on the picture he took of us like walking down the hallway. I just walked myself into the operating room. It was also very surreal and bizarre, but I just remember like walking into the operating room thinking, this is like I'm walking into an alternate universe. I don't think I've ever been so scared in my entire life, and I have a high pain tolerance, and I don't know why I was so afraid. But you just like walk into this room, the table, this like the operating table that you're laying on is like half the size of a normal hospital bed, and I was like, how am I going to fit onto this? Like, how am I not going to just roll right off the side here? But yeah, you sit down and they have you, I mean, probably the most painful part of it was when they were administering the anesthesia and everything to like numb me. It has a pretty big needle. Chris actually has a like picture of them. I'm glad I couldn't see it because I don't, even though I have a high pain tolerance, I don't like needles, and I don't ever watch when they poke me with stuff, which I had to turn away a lot in this whole process because there's a lot of needles and IVs and stuff involved in having a C-section. I walk in there and the lights are so bright. They've got like these big ring lights around you, and it's cold and metal, and it was frightening walking in there. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was frightened walking into it. But then pretty soon, like, the numbing takes effect, and that was also like scary to me because like they do all the like tests of like when you can feel it and where it's like numbing you to, and so they're like touching you and they're like, tell me when this feels the same as this on your body, and they like go up and up until you can like feel it again, and you have to tell them at what point you can feel again. And you know, it's supposed to be from like midway on your belly down, even though the incision's right here. Anyways, I have a recurring nightmare though where I'm like stuck in an emergency situation and I don't have control over my voice or my body, and I can't like leave, and I can't scream, and then I like end up waking myself up because I'm trying so hard to like run away from the situation or scream at somebody, and I wake up and I'm like actually like talking in my sleep and trying to move. So that felt nightmarish to me, being awake and knowing that this is real, and I like was laying there and literally couldn't move my legs. I had no control over my body. That was scary to me. And I also had this terrible cough still, and I was trying to cough and I didn't have the like enough strength to clear my throat, and then I started like panicking that I couldn't breathe very well because I couldn't like clear the phlegm out of my chest with this terrible cough that I had. That was also frightening. But everything else about the C-section was very easy and smooth, I guess, but those things were terrifying to me. I'm not trying to scare anybody about having a C-section, because the things that were terrifying to me were very specific to just like me and my own fears. The C-section itself was very smooth. The doctors were very knowledgeable and quick. I walked in there at 9:10. She was born at 9:32, and that was the most magical thing to like know. Then all of a sudden they were very quick to like get through all of the layers, and you know, between 9:10 and 9:32 they had me all like administered anesthesia, laid down, cut through all the layers, and had her pulled out of there. As soon as Chris walked into the room, I did feel very much relieved and comforted, because I knew that they had said like by the time they let him into the room, it would be within 5 minutes. They're like, have your phone out and ready for pictures, Dad, because like when we let you into the room, we are very close to having her out and ready for you. So that felt really good to know that like she was almost there. As he's there and he's taking pictures and comforting me, and I can tell he's taking pictures and videos, I hear them like counting, and they're like 1, 2, 3, 4. Had no idea what it was. Later found out, after she was like out of there and crying and breathing and everything was good, that her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck 4 times, which is why she would not flip back down and why her heart rate kept dropping. And knowing that now, it makes me kind of panic about how close we were to someone just sending us right back home, and thinking about like that version procedure and wondering if that like possibly made things worse. I don't know, it's just all very scary to me, and thinking about like if we didn't have modern medicine and weren't able to have this C-section, like I don't even want to think about what would happen trying to have a natural birth with her. That would have been absolutely terrible. My own birth, I did have the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, but it was only once. But I've always known that about my own birth, and it's always why I've always said I could never do a home birth, that I would always have to be at least like with a midwife connected to the hospital, because I just know things like that are possible and things can go wrong, and I would never want to be too far away from having like immediate medical attention. So yeah, I'm just thankful we made that choice to doctor and be at a hospital. To each their own. I'm not like saying anything bad about home births or using a midwife, because the midwife was actually the one at the hospital that said we can't send her home. Like I don't feel comfortable with that. She needs to be admitted to the hospital. So I'm thankful for that, but I'm just also very thankful that God has blessed us with good surgeons and modern medicine to be able to deliver her safely, because yeah, there's definitely a reason why she wasn't flipping back down and wasn't able to move that way, and that her heart rate was dropping, because that was tight around her neck. It was wrapped 4 times. So Yeah, our doctor said she had seen like plenty of times it wrapped once or twice. Only one time has she ever seen it wrapped 3 times. Never until her has she ever seen it wrapped 4 times. So we're just so thankful to God that she is here with us safely, and we had a safe delivery and birth, and that, yeah, she's here with us now. So all that to say, she was born at 9:32 on Labor Day on September 2nd, and was back to the room by 10 o'clock and had her in my arms by like shortly after 10 o'clock. So that was, yeah, that's in short our birth story. She's here. She was 6 pounds, 6.4 ounces. She is a tiny, tiny little peanut. By the time we left the hospital, I only ended up staying for 2 days. I know with a C-section you can get at least 3 days, but we were ready to go home and be in the comfort of our own home. Chris only got 5 days off from work. The fact that she was born on a holiday gave us an extra day with her because neither of us had to take time off, obviously, on Monday for Labor Day, and it didn't have to start till Tuesday. So by that day, she was already 1 day old. So we got an extra day with her, and really we got 5 extra days with her from her due date because she wasn't due till the 7th. But yeah, we were just ready to go home, and the extra day they give you in the hospital for a C-section, they said, is for the mom. It's not for the baby. It's for the mom, to make sure she's healing okay from the C-section incision and that she feels comfortable and ready to take care of herself, the baby. And I just felt ready, and we were ready to be home and not spend any more days in the hospital. So we went home on Wednesday, and yeah, she had dropped down to 6.03 pounds by Wednesday, which they said is normal. It wasn't even 10% of her body weight yet, and they said it's normal to lose up to 10% of your body weight, baby is. And then by the time we leave the hospital, we had her first pediatric appointment already then on Friday, 2 days later, and she had already gone back up to 6 pounds, 2 ounces. So she is still a little tiny peanut. She does not fit into any of her newborn clothes even. She's 11 days old now, and we're still drowning in our newborn clothes, but we are doing really well. She is, I know, even though she's a tiny little thing, she is taking in enough nutrients. Her diapers, we're going through lots of diapers every single day, so I know she's getting everything and processing everything, and will grow in due time. But yeah, we're just so happy and thankful to be here, and that's our birth story. It was not what I planned or expected, but you know what, God's plan is always better than our own, and I feel like I'm healing really well from the C-section. Truthfully, if we are ever so blessed to have another child, I would be just fine planning a C-section. The worst parts about my C-section were my own fears about it, and my own me in my own head, and now that I've experienced it, definitely not as scary as I had built it up to be in my mind. But then also the cough that I had for so long. Like, today is probably the first day that I'm not like really hacking. It was a 4-week long cough. It was not fun, but coughing pulled on like the muscles all around my incision, and that hurt worse than anything else. So if I didn't have this terrible cough, I don't think it would be as bad, and the healing wouldn't be so bad. So anyways, now that that's kind of subsided, I'm feeling pretty good. We're going on a lot of walks every day. Yesterday we definitely went over a mile. I'm, probably going at a faster pace than a lot of people do for recovery with it. But everybody just I know you just have to take it at your own pace and how you're feeling. And if you're not recovering as fast, you're not feeling as good, then don't push it. But I've been feeling great, so I'm just doing what we're comfortable with and what I feel ready for. So anyways, that's where we're at. We are here, she's here, happy and healthy. And yeah, I am taking 9 weeks. I have 8 weeks covered for, that's written off by my doctor to take, and then I have another 5 personal days I'm tagging onto it. I did not want to take any unpaid time, which is why I'm just taking the 9 instead of 12, because I would have had to take 3 weeks unpaid then. But 8 weeks are covered by doctor, and I have all of that for sick leave to take. So that's what we're doing. So we're already 2 weeks into that, so you can expect teaching related content to pick back up again in 7 weeks when I return to the classroom. November 5th is my return date back to work, so that's when teaching content will resume. I hope that you do stick around until then, and maybe some of you who are looking for more motherhood content will find my channel in the meantime and maybe find that relevant until then. But I just want you to know, if you are somebody who follows strictly for the teaching stuff, it will come back. It just won't be until November when I am back in the classroom. And until then, it's motherhood stuff. I hope you stick around till then. If you are watching still at this point in the video, thank you. I would love it if you commented anything about your birth experience, whether it was similar or different from mine, or any questions that you might have for me. If you are here because of motherhood content, please comment anything that you would love to see from me between now and then, because as we get more into our routines and kind of figuring out what our day-to-day looks like, I am feeling a little bit more confident and able to get content filmed and edited and posted for you. So yeah, let me know what else you want to see in the meantime. But with that, I am going to end the vlog here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.